Hi, everybody.
Hey everyone. It's super great to have you all here. My name is Ashley and I'm the dramaturg at Playwrights.
My name is Carl. I'm the Artistic Programs Manager at Playwrights Horizons.
We just want to thank you so much for coming. We as humans are holding so much in this moment, particularly Black and trans folks, and we at Playwrights just truly hope that everyone is safe and healthy and doing what they can to take care of themselves and their communities. We've been very grateful to hold these master classes over the last 2 months. They've been a way for us to connect with all of you during this pandemic, and they've also been a way for us to lift up the voices of artists we love and be in service of our mission to celebrate writers and their new plays and musicals. This is the 5th year we've offered Perspectives on Playwriting, POP for short. It was born out of a desire for us to just offer our audiences and our artists a chance to communicate in a new way and to explore the playmaking process a little more deeply. So we're really excited for the chance to be with you all digitally right now. And tonight we have the immense privilege of having Alicia Harris lead us through a class. She's an incredible artist and we just want to take every opportunity we have to share her work. We were so sad to have to postpone her play, What to Send Up When It Goes Down, which is a reckoning with police brutality and also a celebration of Black people. And that show would have had a 4-week run at our theater this summer in partnership with the Movement Theater Company. But we're very much looking forward to mounting it once we reopen. And in the meantime, we're just really deeply grateful to have her with us today.
Yes, I also want to just say that, everybody who comes to these pop events joins us from a different vantage point. I think many of you are probably practicing theater artists, you're writers, directors, actors, and you're looking for some inspiration to bring to your own practice or sort of interpret that however you need or want to during this time where many of us aren't able to actually make theater in the way that we long to or want to. So that's great. We're thrilled you're here. I think many of you probably are audience members who are members of the Playwrights community or are theater lovers from around the country, and maybe you know a little bit about Alicia's work or you've seen her plays and you really admire her like we do, and that's awesome. We're thrilled you're here. Basically, the thing I always say is that for whatever reason you're here, is legit and you belong here. So thanks for being part of this with us. It's awesome to connect. Oftentimes in these sort of classes, we do some writing exercises, and we always ask people who are not writers to just dive in with us and use this as an opportunity to shift perspective and think in a new way about what a play is and how plays might get made, in the hopes that it will inform the way that you see theater, the way that you meet work written for the stage. So we, Ashley and I are going to disappear in a second, and Alicia is going to come in, take the floor. She'll lead us through about a 30-minute-ish lesson presentation of sorts. And then after that, Ashley and I will come back and we'll facilitate a Q&A with Alicia. When we do that, we will be using the Q&A feature here in Zoom. You can post questions there. You can post questions anonymously if you prefer. You can upvote things that you really like, which will be really helpful for us as we try to get a sense of what the group is hungry for. And I always stall at the same part and get lost. Yes, we are recording this event for potential sort of wider release down the line. For the purposes of tonight, if you're here, you registered, we've sort of started a relationship that we hope will continue on beyond this event. But eventually we will, make this available in a more wide way to the world. So that's the plan. I think that's it in terms of business. Thanks again for being part of this with us. It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
So we will welcome Alicia now.
Hello.
Hello.
Yay, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
disappear.
we're gonna, yeah, bye.
Have fun.
Okay. Bye and thank you to the folks at Playwrights Horizons. I'm really honored by this space, and I think it's tremendous that you are offering it to the community in these times, in all times. So I want to sort of echo some of the things that were spoken in the welcome. We are in a moment, a very particular moment, and I am coming to you with all of my feelings of happiness. I'm glad to be here, but also feelings of rage and sorrow and many questions about how to be useful and about what's next. I just want to affirm that if you're in a trying space, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly human. And I am feeling the same. So what I wanted to share about today is a principle that has guided my, my career and my practice. And it's basically, most simply put, it's the idea of doing a lot with a little. It's essentializing. So boiling a thing down to just what's necessary in order to have the most effect or impact. I believe in it so fully that I got a tattoo on my wrist that's a reference to Jack and the Beanstalk. The idea basically being, Alicia, even if you have beans, turn it into something extraordinary. And I got it right before going to grad school because I knew that I would need a reminder on my person to just make it happen as best I could, no matter how little it seemed like I had. And I thought that might be useful in this moment because of where we are and how, as I understand it, folks are feeling, including myself, about what we don't have access to, don't have answers to, et cetera, et cetera. So we're gonna go through a little journey through some of the back roads of this way of thinking for me and how it's informed my practice. I wanna start by showing a video that I think exemplifies this. It's a person performing a work and she's rigorously engaging with something, and I think it's incredibly powerful. So I'm gonna share my screen. And here we go.
Because you're mine, you better stop the things you do. I ain't lying, I ain't lying. You know I can't stand
Thank you for watching. I mean, Alice Smith is tremendous in that interpretation of that song, which is by Screamin' Ray Hawkins, or Screamin' Jay Hawkins. And she, I've said since I've encountered that video that if I can be as good at making theater as she is at interpreting that song, then I can leave this plane a happy, happy soul. I really love when, I really love the way that she's deeply engaged with that. And I've often said of my work, particularly What to Send Up When It Goes Down, that the greatest spectacle for the audience should be the spectacle of a human being, a human body, voice, engaging with something, wrestling with something deeply. To me, it breeds a kind of transcendence that that can only come from people sort of being given space to wrestle. And so that performance represents an ideal, and for me in my work, and also is an example of what I try to do, is to say to myself as I'm making a work, how can I make space for a human being to walk into this, inhabit it so fully and so deeply as to allow for a kind of transcendence and beauty. It doesn't feel like Alice, I've watched a few videos of that, it doesn't feel memorized at all to me. It seems like the intensity has to do with her, a focus on something and an honesty and a giving over to something. And she's got just, I mean, she's virtuosic in her performance. She's really good at what she does. We can tell that she is a tremendous singer, but she doesn't have a great, like a set or anything like that, which is not traditional in her art form, I understand. But I guess what I want to offer or remind is that it's just one woman and one voice. She could be in a room, not amplified at all. And that piece is remarkable. So, Alice Smith. And then I also want to talk a little bit about spoken word poetry, because that form, which I was deeply embedded into, I actually went to undergrad and studied acting. And when I moved to Florida from Mississippi, I didn't have much at my disposal. I didn't have money. I didn't know this theater scene. I did not have an equity card. I was touring with a children's theater company. And I was frustrated because I wanted to make performance, but I felt like I needed a director, designers, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I stumbled upon spoken word poetry, that scene in Florida, it was a godsend because I could write a piece literally in the morning and perform it that evening. And didn't need anything but that. Spoken word requires a lot with a little. Oftentimes I would compete in slam, and in slam you have usually 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, you've got to tell a complete story. And it doesn't have to be traditional, the way that we traditionally tell story in the theater. I mean, what is that? That's its own conversation. But it really needs to move from a beginning, a middle, and an end, the piece that you make. And you have 3 minutes to do it. And you typically are on stage, as Alice Smith was, with just a mic, or you might do a team piece. But essentially, again, what you have at your disposal is a body in space. And when it's done well, I'm telling you, it is tremendous. Spoken word has also influenced my attention to the sonic experience of a piece of theater. I'm very much in tune with the use of voice variables and rhythm and rhyme, and how a sound how a word forces an actor to growl or to howl, or whether or not there's a plosive. I really think about not just how it sounds, but how it feels to produce the sound. And that comes definitely from my time as a spoken word poet and as someone who's heard countless hours of spoken word and had time to study what works and what doesn't work. you can feel this at play in all of my work, and Is God Is, and What to Send Up When It Goes Down. Whitney White and I recently had a conversation, and she said that I create like a score. And I've heard other people say that when I sit down to write, I'm not conscious of like I'm making a score, but I am very particular about sound, so much so that sometimes sound designers, I have a hard time in tech, I will say, because it feels like these new sounds are intrusive. But as far as spoken word is concerned, I would like to, again, share a video of someone doing a performance that has saved my life. And I have to say, in this particular moment when I'm asking questions about mortality and Black mortality, and feeling really down, this piece really helped me to get back in the saddle, and reminded me of the importance of being here and showing up in my activism. So, so give me just a second. I'm going to share screen again. Here we go.
New Orleans, Sonny Patterson.
So I'm from a stock that pitched cocktail bombs and hand grenades. We pour cayenne pepper around the perimeter of a building to keep the police dogs at bay. I'm the Panther Party in a Desire housing projects in New Orleans. I'm a nigga turning the gun on the National Guards. Take a long, long look. I'm a cook in the kitchen asking the missus to taste the dinner. Take a long, long sip, cause death ain't always this good. It's eyes popping out they sockets. It's a lifeless body rocking backwards and forwards. It's a boy stabbed 40 times in front of the church house. It's a man 43 years old stuffing his penis in a 9-year-old girl's mouth. No, death don't always taste good. Just don't sound like something I want to eat often. I hear them say it was like a train came through the room, left mama so depressed she was unable to move until one day, a few months after the hurricane. Husband and child found the Trinity bloody in bed, his wife, son, a daughter dead, and on the end table there was a letter that read, I couldn't stay here, not for 1 minute longer, and it made no sense for me to leave here alone, cause who would take care of my babies with their mama gone? I'm telling you, death ain't always good. It'll leave you finning for water and food. It'll riddle up your body in the Audubon ballroom. They'll El Hajj Malik El Shabazz you, crown you king, then dethrone you in a Lorraine hotel. They'll disfigure your body to where folk can't tell if you Emmett Till or not. Tell them, mama, keep that casket open. Let all the world see it ain't just burning in Mississippi. Hell is hot wherever you be, from the rooftop to the cell block. Step on up to the auction block, bend over, touch your toes, so show your teeth, lift her titties, examine his balls. It damn near sound like a hip-hop song, but it's slavery at its peak. A circus for all the freaks. They'll warn you, caution when you speak. Can't afford the truth to leak, but we'll say blessed are the meek, and all the ones who make peace, and all the ones who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness. For we say theirs is the kingdom. Earth is their inheritance, so no matter how treacherous, they'll try to trap us in them trenches. They'll dig deeper ditches, but all that matters is this: which side will we pick? Which path will we choose? Either win or lose, cause death don't come in vain. Not for us to remain enslaved or our spirits to remain in cages. It comes so we might be courageous to fulfill our obligation to our God and all creation, and stand in determination, able to look death in the face and say, we made it, we made it, we made it, we made it.
So that is Sonny Patterson, S-U-N-N-I, Patterson, if you want to bookmark that piece. Again, similar to Alice Smith, though she's not singing, she is using her voice, her body, herself to evoke so many other images, so many other times and places into the time and place where she stood and spoke that piece. I think that it's masterfully done. And again, it's something that I aspire to in my work. The rhythm and the rhyme, the trip for the ears that she takes you on is incredible. And to me, it helps. You could really hear it build to something that made this end that created for us a space for when we land at this end, and this idea that the reason we have mortality is so that we can value our lives and what we do with them, I think so much more impactful. A play for me is like a really complex machine. And so I'm very meticulous with the language, the images, and everything. And I'm sort of I'm going on like a nerd trip. Basically, it's a very intricate machine. And you can see that what Sonny Patterson is working with is, to me, a very intricate machine. Every scene, every word, every image, how she uses them, tone, etc., used to produce the most impactful expression of her ideas. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what to send up when it goes down. All of that just to lay a platform for and I wrote what to send up when it goes down, and it makes use of some of these skills that I've been talking about. I want to say to our theme of doing a lot with a little, that when I started what to send up when it goes down, I was in a situation personally not unlike the one we find ourselves in now, in that I was isolated from other people. It was grad school summer, everyone was gone home, and I was alone in Castaic, which is a very small desert town here in California, and Trayvon Martin was murdered. And I didn't have access to other people except by telephone and by a computer screen. I remember there was lots of Facebooking then. And so I really needed something to do. And I needed a way to sort of communalize how I was feeling. I needed someone to look me in my eyes and say, you're not losing your mind. Anti-Blackness is real and it's terrible. And so I created the piece, and I thought I might show you all the very first draft of what became, or a part of the very first draft of what became What to Send Up When It Goes Down. Back then, it had a different title. And the title was What to Do When Some Shit Goes Down. And then there are notes in the margin. I've sort of zoomed in on this document, which is the original of the very first draft. I'm so glad that I kept this. And it has the notes from my mentor, Doug Kearney. Shouts to Doug and his questions. Feel free to read through those. But I want to look at step 4, which he also circled. It says, a watcher gives a cue and the participants begin a series of gestures. These gestures should be an attempt to physically express where each participant is emotionally and spiritually at that moment. So past Alicia was engaging with these ideas really clearly. She was making space for people to just show and express exactly how they're feeling. I think in terms of doing a lot with a little, or trying to think about what is necessary, I didn't believe at this time that I needed to give lines to other people. I just made space. Now this, I've since changed my ideas and evolved the piece, but I do think it's worth noting that this way of thinking about what to send up when it goes down has remained. That there's still so much space for what an actor is feeling in those moments, and for them to really bring their own experiences to the work. And then it also says there should be a level of giving over to these gestures. They grow in intensity as time progresses, which makes me think again of that Alice Smith singing, right? There's space for her soul connection. There's space for transcendence. There's space for the things that we can't plan for. I think making space for that is really important. So I'm going to stay on the screen share and show you some pictures from the early days of What to Send Up When It Goes Down. And just, since I think it might be useful, tell you that I was not doing great. I didn't have a Playwrights Horizons. I didn't have a production at Soho Rep. I was a student And then when it actually went up, by that time, I was a part-time faculty member. I was on food stamps. I didn't have a lot. What I had was great anger and determination around making something that would serve Black people. So I got my friends together, and we did this work. And I should also tell you that some of the folks who did this for the first time, the very first time that it went up, were not actors. They had gone to school to study stage management, to study producing, to study filmmaking. They, weren't trained, I'm holding up some air quotes, but they were moved to do something, and so joined in this piece. We were rehearsing where we could and putting it up where we could. This is the first place that opened their doors to us, the Harriet Tubman Center for Social Justice in South Central LA. Not a traditional theatrical space at all. They had this tiny window. You could hear the traffic as it passed by a main street. Basically threw up this scrim and made this work in this space. It was really rough and tumble. I remember a rehearsal in my living room even. It did have a lovely mutual aid vibe though. Anything that we needed, we got sort of sourced from one another. I remember people lending shoes, doing what we had to do. There was no costume designer. I just sort of said, wear Black, and then colored shirts for the men. And we made the work and took it into the world and, crowdfunded where necessary. But throughout the journey of this work, it's been important to me to make sure that there was space for folks to feel how and what they felt, to bring themselves to it. And it's also quite spare. It was written to be spare because I didn't have a lot of resources. I knew I couldn't get a set, but also aesthetically, I appreciate just seeing folks. I get really nervous about like a big set for a play of mine, or like complicated sound design or things like that make me nervous, because I wonder if they sort of steal focus from what's most important to me, and that's just a person honestly engaging with a thing. This is the piece at the costume shop at American Conservatory Theater, and I am in this picture, you can find me, and at Boston Court in Pasadena. And you'll note, I mean, a lot of things, if you've seen the work, are the same. There's still paper and yarn for this production on the floor. And, things got better, and we were able to move into having more resources. The theater at Boston Court, where it went up in Pasadena, gave us some money, and we had some space. And eventually, one of the last things I did with this work was to actually create a trailer, which is really cool and a testament to what we were up to back then. So again, I'm gonna just do a quick screen share and show it to you. I can figure this out.
The people are coming because it is the day after or the day before it has gone down. You know what I mean by it. The thing that won't stop. It don't make sense. So why should it make sense?
Oh, the doors are closing in.
It don't make sense, so why should it make sense? On your marks, get set, bang!
The keyholes are...
You don't care about the words themselves, preferring instead to ponder the film's density and viscosity, like where it come from, why she's so mad.
All the pins down. I walk by a fire and it goes out. I walk by a fire and it goes out, goes out.
It don't make sense, so why should it make sense?
I don't wanna be water. Make me stone. If I was stone, they could throw me through fire and I wouldn't burn. If I was stone, I could sink in.
So I guess my final word on what to send up is that there was an abundance. I didn't have a lot. We were working with very little, but we worked the hell out of that very little we had. And I guess my message that if you will, is that you may not have a lot, but I really hope that you can find a way to like maximize it and joyfully move forward. I hope that you know that no matter where you are in career, and even beyond this moment, that if an artistic director hasn't said yes to your play, you can make your play, put your play into the world. We were never part of anyone's season until the Movement Theater Company invited us in 2018, or invited me in 2018, and I could stop being a one-woman band trying to do everything myself. So just Godspeed, goddess speed. Doing this kind of work in this way really forced a richness and an ingenuity and a community mindedness that I would never have found, and a strength that I now bring into every process that I have. And I just offer that to you in hopes that it is useful. I'm gonna leave you with one last piece. On the video that I just shared, I'm singing and like literally banging a beat into a desk. And I really love body percussion. I love a simple percussion. It's in What to Send Up When It Goes Down. It's been there since the beginning. And it I think speaks to the theme of this talk, which is doing a lot with a little. It's Nina Simone singing a song, and you can see that she's just stomping, and she's not behind a piano, which she often is. And I'm interested in the beauty of her without the piano, and the beauty of her like soul space opening up as she engages with this song and the things that she is telling a man he needs to do. Okay, so one last little bit. Do a screen share. My goodness, this feels more complicated than it ought to be. And we go here and here.
You
talking about? How nothing what I bring to you. Woo. If I ever catch you being untrue, oh, darling, now love me good. Woo. Oh, darling, now love me good. Oh, darling, now love me good. Oh, darling, now love me good.
There you go, folks. Make your shit, make it hot. Don't let anything stop you. Thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was so cool. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna pivot into Q&A mode now, everybody. We've got some questions already here. This first one is from an anonymous attendee. Alicia, wondering if you can talk a little bit about your transition from acting school to playwriting.
Sure. So I went to undergrad and was focused on acting. And while I was an undergrad, I did get cast. I remember being cast as like Sally Bowles in Cabaret, and Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. But I was aware there were very few Black folks, and this is in Mississippi, so really a problem, no Black faculty. But I was acutely aware of the sort of, that while playing those roles, I was transgressing something. I was aware that like, it wasn't written for me. I remember researching for Sally Bowles to see if there were Black people in the Weimar Republic, right? And I discovered there were, but to have to go on that search to justify my occupation of that role was, I think, was troubling. I think I'm more troubled by it now than I was then. I was just excited to do it. But what really made a difference for me was feeling frustrated with what were generally, I felt, narrow ideas about spaces my body could occupy on stage, roles that I could play. And so I, in that frustration, decided to write, to make the thing I wanted to see. I mean, there was some contact with like August Wilson's work, naturalism, which a lot of people go to or think of when they think about Black artists, and not to knock naturalism in the theater, but I was interested in something a little different. And so I felt like, and I was not being exposed to Susan Laurie Parks, though she existed. And so I had to make for myself. And that's really what spurred that transition, was feeling like, if I don't make this play, no one will make it. Someone else can play Juliet, someone else can play X, Y, or Z. But I knew that if I didn't write What to Send Up When It Goes Down, no one was going to write that. So.
Cool. Thank you.
This next question is in a way a follow-up to that. But Kendra is wondering, there's been a huge push by many artists to get American theater, like capitalized American theater, to reckon with the systemic racism that permeates its institutions. What do you think of Black artists divesting from white institutions and building up Black institutions?
I don't think that that's a bad idea if Black artists are committed. But I say, Kendra, I don't have a problem with divesting if artists want to divest. But I also, if I'm being really frank, feel like white institutions use the shit out of Black artists and artists of color, period, of marginalized people. I want to use them. Like, to be completely frank, I want to use them. What can I get from them? And so it's a little bit complicated for me. I think I know who that Kendra is. I'm down to have a conversation about that. But I would support a Black artist who was like, look, I want to do this thing. I wonder if divestment only works if everyone divests, which is probably what Kendra is suggesting, or if people build their institutions but also have their work up over here, if it still serves the people. So I think it's complicated, and I definitely want to see more Black producers. I would love to sit down to a meeting with more Black women artistic directors, which like never happens. It's quite often a white man, and it's a problem.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a question from Kathleen. Can you talk a little bit about your writing process? For example, daily routines, strategies for generating ideas, how you set goals, etc.
Sure. So daily routines, my routines have gotten pretty skewed as of late. I am not someone who writes every single day unless I have a deadline that's close. Then there's like every day I plug away at the thing. But the routines when they're working is I usually get up and news and whatever sort of silly internet stuff I want to do. And then I sit down to write after eating. And I have to take breaks because my focus isn't great. So I build in breaks for myself. And I've been trying to do tea at 4 p.m. every day, which is a nice like little thing to look forward to, a nice marker for being near to the end of my workday. In terms of generating ideas, gosh, they come from so many different places. I'm really responsive to imagery. And I thought about sharing some of that, but it's like its own workshop. But I have literally seen a video of a group of people doing something and gone, that's the chorus for my play. So I get ideas all kinds of places. And usually the ones that keep me up at night, that have a kind of staying power, are the ones that find their way into my plays. I don't really have to like sit down and generate ideas. I may have to sit down and think through a problem, like, well, how do I get this character from here to there? But in terms of what will I write, I always like up and down the pipeline are so many ideas for what to write. And that's how things work for me personally.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a question about music, and you shared a couple of clips of music, and Amanda is wondering or saying, I love that your writing has been compared to a composition of music. Do you listen to music as you write? Do you have any rituals that help you write, maybe music related?
Mm-hmm. I do not listen to music as I write. I'm very sensitive to sound, and I think that it's so then it makes sense that like that sound, that feels intrusive to me. I guess it could go the other way, but I cannot, and I've tried, I cannot have music on while I'm writing. It needs to be quiet. I guess I want to make my own music. Maybe that's part of the exercise. It's like putting my music into the air by way of writing. And but I do talk to myself aloud quite a bit as I write. And then rituals, I forgot about this. This could also answer the previous question. I had started lighting sage and sort of inviting ancestors, people in my family who've passed on, into the space to help me to stay focused and to be useful and to descend into the underground forest of creativity, to sort of move out of this psychic space that I'm in before I start writing and into another with ease.
I've got a question from Irving. They say, what does End Up When It Goes Down helped me reimagine or perhaps even remember what theater can be and what stories, worlds, images can look like on a stage? Aside from the discipline of spoken word that has helped to shape your particular craft, are there any other plays or artists that continue to inspire, move, or shape you?
Gosh, so many. and I didn't speak about plays, and I think because it felt a little too easy. So I will say that Susan Lori Parks has been a tremendous influence on my work. You can feel the use of repetition and revision, which she uses and has an essay about. There's a play by Heine Muller that I read and reread and almost shared an excerpt of for this presentation called Medea Material, that I think is tremendous and has influenced me, the way that he sort of truncates the Medea myth into this more intensified, like muscular little piece, which has everything to do with what I spoke about today. I love Robert O'Hara. I love so many artists, of course, I'm drawing a blank. I really responded to Suicide Forest by Haruna Lee. I love, I mean, there's so much. I feel like if I start to name names, I'll forget something. I've read a lot of August Wilson and have taught his work to my students. Maria Irene Fornes, her ideas about essentializing and removing characters from, or releasing characters in plays from overly psychologizing them has been influential. Yeah, those are a few things. And I hope that that's helpful, useful.
Awesome.
What Works City Solutions is wondering, outside of these open stage directions, are there other ways you make space for the things the other artists, like designers, actors, directors, are feeling and bring to the piece in the rehearsal process? Also, do you have any stories you can share about these kinds of unpredictable moments you've seen brought to the show?
Making space for designers, director. I guess that it's not as formalized as the space that's made for the performers. I like to think, though, Whitney White and the designers on What to Send Up would be the ones to really ask that there is space. If you saw What to Send Up, there was a gallery installation with all of the images. There was a light installation. There was some comedy that was being played on a couple of iPads. None of that is written into the text. That's a testament to the brilliance of the people who were my collaborators on the piece. And they were so good about sort of looking at this work, listening to what I thought it could do and what it was trying to do, and just extending outward from that. So I guess the short answer is, I like to think as a collaborator that people feel invited. I don't know how formally written into the language of the text, the way that the invitations for the cast are, it is. And then the second part of that was, stories about the unexpected with regard to What to Send Up. I just thought of a not great story of when we were on the road, and they gather there's a moment in the beginning, for those who don't know, when the audience is in a circle with the folks who are performing the work. And it's before we start giving prompts and are sort of laying the groundwork for these prompts. And there was a woman who I guess didn't feel like she was close enough, and she put her hand on an actor's shoulder and moved her out of the way. It's relevant that this is a white woman and that this actor is a Black woman, a young Black woman. And it's the layers of irony and frustration that somebody could come into this space that we're trying to make safe for Black people and still commit this act of white supremacy, of exemplifying white supremacy, which is basically, I want this space, you move out of it, you were in my way. Really frustrating. So that's a negative. Let me try and think of something positive. At the end of What to Send Up, when it goes on at Howard University in DC, I was there for the tour, and we invite our non-Black friends out of the room, and the Black folks stay in the room, and there are some more sort of call and response things that happen. And it turned into like a dance party at the end. It was really cool, a sort of like dance off, like joyful, jubilant dance off at the very end of the piece, which was remarkable. And then there are other things. People weep a lot when they're doing it. And I think Whitney does a great job of keeping a room and a process that says you will probably weep because these are terrible things, and you're remembering things in your body. As you move your body, as you rigorously engage physically, things are going to come up and come out. And so you don't know when and where that's going to happen, but it happens very often with this piece.
An anonymous attendee is asking, what kind of feedback is most valuable for you when you're doing rewrites? Perhaps you have an idea of like one of the best notes you've ever gotten.
With regard to rewrites, I mean, I feel like a general note that I've been given about playwriting is like, be fierce about your work, which I hope doesn't feel like a cop-out to your question. Trying to think of a particular note that was really good. I'm really picky about who I listen to I'm one of those playwrights who doesn't think that just because someone's a literary manager that they get to tell me how to fix my play. I actually have critical friends that I've elected with circle of folks who I send my work to. Let me think on that. There's no like one note that's sticking out. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me think on that.
Alicia is wondering, what are you thinking about making theater in a time where we can't gather largely? Are you thinking more about TV, film, or are you playing with new ways to get theater to audiences? Love your work. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I am working on a feature right now, but I would be working on this feature, I think, even if we weren't in this moment. I don't have an answer for what's going to happen next, and I know that's not what you're asking for. I've sort of relieved myself from questions of what is theater now for you, Alicia. I'm still writing plays. Before I started working on the treatment for this feature, I was writing a play. And since I always have an eye for the reader's experience, it doesn't feel like I'm writing into the void, because I feel like somebody is going to read this. If it doesn't go up for a year, 5 years, it can go into the world as a piece that I wrote also to be read and experienced and to have impact as words on a page. I'm excited by some of the virtual theater that I've been taking in. I've gone to like a few readings and things, and people are super creative, and I find it thrilling. But I myself am not going, okay, time to switch gears and think. I'm not doing that, to be very, very honest. I'm still writing plays the ways that I have been.
I have a question from another anonymous. Do you ever get sick of your own voice? And this person says, I don't get sick of your voice, but I do get sick of mine when I'm writing and revising. How do you overcome the fatigue that comes with rewriting a piece?
Oh gosh. Well, I have to step away a lot. There's a piece that I was working on recently that I was just doing the absolute most. And I needed to take breaks. And I think that's where a critical friend might come in, and you might ask them to take a look at the work and see if, you know, how it feels to them, because you might be hypercritical of yourself, or there's no doubt something that your critical friend is seeing that you are not seeing. I also find my mentor encouraged me a lot in grad school to transcend my own tropes. So if you are doing something and you know you're good at it, we all have our like thing we know we do well, and you've done it, you need to not do it. I don't have an answer for how to not, but I think that if you know, oh, I've done this cute thing and I do it in my plays, you got to move away from that cute thing and find a new cute thing. And maybe that's, you know, watching another play that you like and a playwright does something. And I don't think you copy another playwright, but you could ask yourself what your version of that thing is, or what your way of thinking about, for example, the ideas that I've shared today is. What for you is the most important spectacle in a play? Whittle that down for yourself and then maybe work towards that. I also find relief from my tropes in the few times that I've gotten to write for the body of a particular actor. And I like to, if I can, you know, let them improv, let them just talk to me and build something for that person so that it's not coming from the void so much, or doesn't feel like it is. It sort of forces me to deal with what's in front of me. It's a new challenge. I think give yourself new challenges if you can. Hopefully that's useful.
Thank you.
Eric is wondering, is there something you think that playwrights of color can do to help increase the visibility of their work? Or do you think we should all consider producing our work?
I think producing your work is always, always, always a good idea. Absolutely. I think that not waiting for someone to like deem you worthy of a production in their house is just, I think you have to do it. Like I think that waiting is disheartening, and it's gotta be like soul crushing, right? I will say that like What to Send Up When It Goes Down, there were folks in New York, artistic directors in New York City who had that work and passed on it. right? And if no one had done it here, the movement stepped in. Thankfully, they got a hold of it and they were like, we want to do this. But I wasn't waiting for anyone to step in and do that work. I'd already done it. And if no one had done it in New York City, I would probably still be doing it. Just because I think that I owe it to myself to try and get the work out there. I understand that's hard. I understand there are certain privileges I have that made that easier. But if you've got the will and you can get some community behind it, I'm always an advocate for like, produce your work, absolutely. And the first part of your question was, is there anything else we can do? I don't know, that's complicated because obviously there are gatekeepers who are not looking out for playwrights of color. And I don't want to advise that you should like, I don't know, write a certain kind of letter or present yourself in a certain kind of way. Prejudice will find a way to deny you access. Like that's point blank period. So if you have the desire to produce, self-produce, and just get your stuff in front of the people, I say go for it.
A question from another anonymous person. This is sort of more about life as a playwright than playwriting itself. So with long multi-year projects, how do you balance your work with the usual struggles that come with living in everyday life? For example, if it takes you 3 years to write a play, potentially meaning you're waiting 3 years between playwriting paychecks while you write, how do you take care of yourself and maintain spaces and times where you can be creative?
Well, my life has shifted quite a bit in the past couple of years. I've been very lucky to receive monetary awards that help me to stay afloat so that this isn't a concern the way that it was for me 5, 6, 7 years, every other part of my career. Like basically this is new to me, not being worried about money. And the way that I sustained myself in those times was through working I tried to keep a part-time job or a job that was flexible enough that I could go away if I needed to. But I've worked all kinds of jobs. I've temped. My last like punching a clock job was working as a live captioner. So I would, I can type pretty quickly and I worked that, and I worked a shift that allowed me to, I remember having this living room rehearsal of what to send up when it goes down. There's no like roadmap. Everybody has their story. Mine has been that for the most part, there hasn't been a lot of money. I tried to always stay close to the arts. So I taught at Cal Arts for 3 years. I was in the School of Theater teaching people about engaging with dramatic text. And I've worked in offices as an arts administrator. That to me was cool and kept the fire lit. Just to be in a space where I was being exposed to art was really healthy. But in terms of sustaining myself, I barely scraped by. And I don't have like an easy answer. I just worked where I could, and I don't have wealthy parents, and I just did the best I could with working a 9 to 5. I wasn't making money off of playwriting for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question from another anonymous person. How did you and Whitney go about creating a safe environment for the actors and what to send up, given the subject matter and the actors having to work through the experience of each show, which you already kind of spoke to, but maybe if you could say more about that.
I think Whitney's a really good captain of the ship, and she did a wonderful job of creating a space for honesty. We had a space for talking about our experiences with anti-Blackness, all of us. And there's definitely space for however you feel, like if and when folks get emotional, talking our way through how the company supported one another when that happens in a performance. I think just open communication was key. And I think sort of acknowledging we're here to do tough work. But the work isn't meant to be exploitative. The work isn't meant to allow audiences to have a cultural safari with your Black pain. So I think talking through all of that and being clear about what the goals of the piece were, and that my intention is, and the feedback I've gotten from one of the actors actually, or a few of them, is that the piece works. So it allows for a catharsis, and you don't leave, if you're a participant or a person bearing witness, just feeling sad and heavy, but that you leave feeling like you've had a way to lift some weight and be with other people who understand that weight.
I think maybe we have time for just one more question. So this is from Josh. First, they say, I literally picked up a pen for the first time after witnessing / memorizing a few of Sonny Patterson's work while an acting student at Howard. The irony. So thank you for this. The inspiration is real. My question is, do you feel anyone can be a playwright? I often find myself being visually invigorated, but struggle with dialogue. So I often battle with myself on finishing a piece, feeling unqualified to speak for characters unlike me. But I feel exactly the same around creating the piece that you know no one else will create.
Yeah, shout out to Sonny Patterson for being an incredible person in the universe. Do I think anyone can be a playwright? Yes. Because whether or not it's good is completely subjective. Theater comes from ritual, and it comes from cultures telling stories to themselves about themselves. I think you can absolutely be a storyteller. I think that if you are moved by imagery, I wonder if there are ways to sort of acknowledge that and not go in trying to write good dialogue. Maybe there's a way that your theater could be a theater of images. People do that. And I wonder too, if you might invite some of your critical friends in to help you discern whether or not your dialogue isn't working. I mean, there's so many kinds of theater that are theater of abstraction, theater of absurdity, theater of poetic, whatever. And there are ways, I think, to maximize whatever the tools are that you have, which seems like a very strong eye for visuals, and turn that into extraordinary theater. And I think maybe flexing that muscle while you work on the other muscle could be a way to move in a direction that feels right. But I don't even necessarily think you need dialogue to be a good theater artist, to be very honest.
Cool. Thank you so much. This has been really wonderful.
Thank you.
Really, really grateful for your generosity and your work, and thank you. So to everybody, I'll just say thanks so much for being a part of this. This is the 5th event that we've done since we entered this quarantine time. We are going to sort of take a break now for a little while, and the hope will be to do some more of these digital events in the late summer, early fall. So please stay tuned. This is just a really wonderful way for us to stay connected to all of you and to celebrate these artists and connect to this thing that we love a great deal and helps us keep on going. So it's really a pleasure to be in community with everybody.
Yeah, and if you want to share any reflections or insight about your experience tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can write to Carl and me at pop@phnyc.org. I'll just drop that in the chat right now. It misspelled phnyc.org. Okay. And then just as a parting note, if you're looking for ways to activate, our staff put together a Google Doc of resources on transformative justice and racial injustice in particular. So I'm also going to drop that in the chat as well. But yeah, we hope you and your loved ones continue to take care and stay safe in the weeks ahead. And we can't wait to see you back at our home on 42nd Street eventually. So thanks again. And thank you, Alicia. This was so wonderful.
We can't wait to do your play.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Talk soon.